the way that some people falsely misinterpreted it to mean that there's going to be no more art blocks curated, that obviously would be a enormous announcement. But this one is
Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff. Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff.
Welcome to episode 54 of Two Bored Apes. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Roy. Roy, how are you? / let's talk about the news of the week.
I'm well. / let's talk about news of the week.
Bless
Is that
you.
a sneeze?
My wife sneezed.
So I heard. I think everybody heard. So I was actually.
Other people can't, well, I don't know what the listeners are hearing, but
I don't know either. I mean, maybe Brian will edit that out. I was chatting with Vitor.
This make less sense.
Yeah, this will. Okay, I guess it's probably staying in. I was chatting with Vitor. He had a suggestion for us, and he said you should probably start and in order to get more listeners and retain listeners and all that, grow the podcast.
That's why I said,
yada.
Let's get into the news of the week.
Yeah,
our producer is telling us we need to talk about NFTs quicker in the podcast and less about what Roy ate.
And now
sidetracked again.
I'm sidetracked, but he said. Yeah, it's just ironic. He was saying you should start the episodes by saying what you're going to talk about. But all right, in this episode, we're going to talk about the 3300 ETH punk sale, the QQL, the PixelVault video game trailer, the upcoming Curated drop. And then I think, meant to tell you that. Maybe I forgot to tell you that. And also, just this episode, I was like, all right, yeah, we're not going to talk about news of the week. We're not going to talk about what we just ate. We're going to bypass the whole food distraction and go straight into news of the week, and then immediately there's a sneeze and immediately we're distracted and I veered us off even further.
Do you want to talk about the coffee I'm drinking?
Oh, we can talk about coffee. You're drinking.
We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about NFTs. We've already spit in Vitor's face by so thoroughly not doing it.
Sorry, Vitor. News of the week. There was someone that messaged and said, "Can you please stop doing the singing news, the singing?" That's
not exactly what they said.
Transitions.
But they said something to that effect. They said they love the podcast, but that's stuck in their head or something.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, news of the week, Jamie. What's happened this week?
There was a huge punk sale. The famous hoodie ape punk, which is maybe confusing to people that don't know things very well. You say ape and you say punk. We're talking about the same thing here. But anyway, yeah, apes are the second rarest type of CryptoPunk, and one that also has a hoodie, which is a very desirable trait, even though it's not super rare. Sold for 3,300 ETH 2 days ago. And this same one got put on sale for 3,800 ETH 2 weeks ago, and I sent it to you and jokingly told you should buy it. Roy's making a big deal of putting his hoodie on right now.
Well, where? I'm getting in theme.
That's the theme right now.
We're talking about a hoodie punk.
Did you see anything beyond basically that it happened, like who the buyer or seller was? I looked into it a little.
I know the seller. The seller is Seed Phrase, who also has a bunch of punks.
The 7 trait one is the one that.
The one of I think it's the only 7 trait one. It has a top hat, a cigarette, all these traits. He bought it. He bought the hoodie ape punk. This is very confusing. He bought the one that just sold for 3,300 ETH for 150 ETH, I believe, in December 2020 or maybe November.
The person who sold it was like, I sold this for $1,400 3 years ago.
Yeah, and.
Which at the time they were probably like, wow, this is a lot of money for a thing I claimed for free, right?
Yeah.
It's all crazy.
I don't know who the buyer is. I remember. I think that they popped up a Twitter account that had the sort of punk for whatever the punk XXXX account is, and claimed to be the buyer. I didn't really dig into it or look any further.
I shouldn't say I dug into it, but I saw a tweet basically saying that account had, I think it was almost exactly 3,300 ETH. Hadn't done anything in 5 years. It just bought them for some cheap amount, and just the account did nothing for 5 years, and then all of a sudden bought this, which is kind of crazy. I feel like usually when you're seeing huge buys like this, there's a deposit from Binance into a new wallet or something like that. But this was just almost the exact right amount of money just sitting there for ages.
Yeah, they bought a bunch of ETH when ETH was like $100 or something like that.
So here's another thing that I've been seeing a lot on Twitter is this plus the QQL, which we'll get to later, being sort of main things where people. Oh, also the M3 mutant. We should talk about that, but I'm getting distracted. People basically pointing out these huge sales or huge raises, maybe in the QQL instance, and saying what bear market or whatever. Which is sort of an interesting thing, even though overall it's still pretty clearly a bearish market. It is interesting to see, that the blue chips or the very, very cream of the crop is still able to attract so much capital. I mean, 3,300 ETH is a lot of money, even at these pathetic ETH prices that we're dealing with lately.
Yep, about 4.5 million, and I think it's sort of it shows that there is a lot of capital and money sort of sitting on the sidelines, and just maybe when the right opportunity comes along, then ready to deploy.
This one was
and maybe
literally sitting on the sidelines as
yeah,
as we just
for
said.
5 years.
It didn't get deposited recently or whatever. It was sitting there for 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, there's clearly not a lack of money out there. Like, there's so much money in the world, so much ETH in the ecosystem, so much in stable coins. It's just the desire for people to spend it on certain NFTs. And I think that during the mania bull market, it was all sorts of random NFTs were getting ETH thrown at them, and now it's sort of the market has become a lot more discerning. Where just you have to be a very special NFT or a special project, like both QQL and this punk are, to have significant amounts of money thrown at it, or
huuuge. I don't know what even to say, but the M3 is a huuuge asset. It's a mutant.
What happened with the M3? I saw something, but I didn't see exactly.
So somebody who owned 2 M3s already, which is crazy because there's only 9 of them total.
9, I think. Yeah. 11.
Through some loaning protocol, borrowed a bunch of money off of one or both of them, raised 1,000 ETH this way basically, and bought the noise for M3. So now they own 3 of them. And
that's wild.
They also owe somebody 1,040 ETH in a month or something like that.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, so that's another huge sale.
QQL. So massive drop this week. You could not shut up about it last week.
Yeah, that was funny. Do you want to just head right into the generative art section if we're going to be talking about this anyway?
Do you want to touch on? We've got PixelVault video game trailer. Was not even.
There's not much to it, but they have a 3v3 game coming up, and they released a trailer that had not a lot to it. But it talks a little bit about the game mechanics, basically. And I think maybe they had some stills that seemed like they were going to be like the stages that you could battle on. But there was no gameplay footage or even pictures of gameplay footage.
Pretty anticlimactic.
Also, G-Funk specifically was asked on Twitter, like, is this the big AAA game you guys have been talking about? He said, no, this is a different game. So there's that little bit of information. But other than that, there's not much to it. It's a 1.5 minute video. We'll link to it in the show notes if people want to watch it, I guess.
All right, let's jump into art blocks and generative art in general. It was very... What?
I was sipping, so I was pointing to you to go art blocks.
Art blocks and generative art in general. Well, you weren't sipping then. You just didn't join me.
Well,
anyway. All right, so I have here on the show notes QQL and Roy's amazing prediction. So
that's funny. Very funny, right?
On the episode last week, we chatted about QQL a lot, which is a Dutch auction that was starting at 50 ETH and resting at 2 ETH. And it's a generative art project by Tyler Hobbs and Dandelion Wist, I believe. And we were guessing where it might mint out at. I said 14 ETH. You said, I think, 10.
Nope.
10 and a half.
False.
All right, Jamie said 14.
So happy about this. No, the truth is, I'm pretty arbitrarily, right? I said 14, you said 10 and a half. It seemed like 15 or more was too much, but it's Tyler Hobbs and it's customizable, so it seemed like it was going to be worth a lot. So I guess 14, and I happened to be exactly right. And then on Twitter, somebody tweeted about how Zeneca is much too smart, or they've been listening to Zeneca too much or something, because you got it exactly right, which grinded my gears because I was the one that got it exactly right, and somehow you still got credit for it.
Yeah.
But
That was fun.
that's a lot of money to raise, right?
Yeah,
bearish market.
I had even maybe a week or two before we'd recorded, and I said 10.5. My prediction was even a little lower. I think I was thinking like 7 to 9 or something.
Yeah, the people that I saw talking about on Twitter at proper or at underscore proper, something I also saw was also saying under 10 for sure. Didn't seem like there was a lot of confidence in people, but it just seemed like, excuse me, the name and the deflationary ness
Mm-hmm.
of it and the customizability ness of it seemed like it was just too great to not sell for a lot, which I guess, I mean, 80th would, it's still a lot of money individually or for the whole collection, but yeah, 14
Yeah.
14 was the resting place of the auction. This is also a true Dutch auction where the people who said they would pay more only had to pay the final resting price, which is what a Dutch auction initially meant. But in the NFT space, as we know, it has come to sort of not necessarily mean that.
Yeah.
An interesting thing is they blocked XY2Y. Is that the name of the marketplace?
X2Y2.
X2Y2, because this is a marketplace that doesn't pay creator royalties on NFT sales. Or has the option, right?
Yeah, so I read a thread by them earlier today. They sort of came out saying, highlighting the fact that the QQL Mint Pass is not tradable on their marketplace, and sort of kind of calling them out by saying that it's not that they're a 0% creator royalty fee platform. They give the option to people buying the NFTs to say whether they want to pay them or not, and they allow the community of NFT holders of the collection that's being traded to vote on whether they want royalties to be enforceable or not. So, say Bored Apes, everyone could go with a Bored Ape who has a Bored Ape and vote whether they want royalties to be enforceable or not. And I mean, I don't know exactly the mechanics of how this all works and all of the logistics, but they also said that 98+% of their sales do have the royalties paid. So it's not strictly
in number of sales, but I bet if you broke that down into
probably
dollars,
in ETH value,
it's not at all.
It's very different. But yeah, there's a lot of community debate about this concept. I'd be really curious to know what people like DC Investor say, because I think that I might be putting words in their mouth, but I'm pretty sure that they came out and said that they won't buy NFTs that have this ability to block trading of them on marketplaces. Like, while they believe in honoring creative royalties and artist royalties and all that, they're decentralization maxis and think that, true ownership means true ownership and you should be able to do what you want. But then at the same time, DC Investor was sort of a judge on this project and deciding who gets these, and obviously is a fan of generative art and Tyler Hobbs. So, and I know that a lot of people sort of,
just to clarify what you're saying when you say judge, Tyler and Dandelion were going to give away, I think, 9 of them or something to people who had curated just sort of their favorite ones ahead of the mint, and they were going to mint those directly to those people's wallets or whatever. And DC was one of the people who got to take part in the judging. Which ones would get those?
So yeah, I'd be curious to know what he thinks and what other people like that, because I think that there are a decent number of sort of on-chain / decentralization purists in the art blocks community who really believe in that, but also people who are massive Tyler Hobbs fans and believe in, like really love the art and the artist. So
our listeners might be curious what you and I think about something like this, rather than you speculating about what DC thinks. Why don't you tell us what you think?
I've been thinking about it. I haven't yet formed a really strong opinion. I think I lean towards not loving it. I kind of go back and forth. I obviously want artists to receive royalties and for that to be something that's maintained in the space and a thing that exists.
But you don't want them to take any actions to ensure that happens.
I don't know. I haven't formed a very strong opinion, basically. I think to me, this is the blocking of marketplaces is more of a punitive action to the holders, and I would love to see I don't know exactly what this looks like, but some sort of reward mechanism where you instead of being punitive and punishing people or taking rights away, you find a way to incentivize people to pay the royalties. Basically,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, I want to just specifically tag on to the thing you said. I don't think that they're taking rights away, because when the mint passes were released, this was the terms of it. You know what I'm saying? It's not as though they existed for a long time and then they went in and changed. They're sort of taking away a theoretical right that the people never exactly had. I'm for it. I don't really care. I think as far as the decentralization maxi sort of argument goes, I just always feel like the people who are sort of espousing that are thinking a little bit unidirectionally, almost the way that somebody might criticize libertarians as an overall philosophy, where it's like, you know, don't do anything to my freedoms, but like I don't care about anybody. Like theoretically, what if my freedom and your freedom are conflicting in some sort of way? We have to have some sort of arbitration process or whatever. But you know, it doesn't seem like it's not a decentralized decision for one artist or two artists, I guess, right, in one project to block. Like the idea of decentralization, again, to me, is that if this entity or person or whatever is something that you don't like or don't want to interact with, you simply go around it. So the people that are decentralization maxis can simply not purchase this NFT. You know what I mean? It's also, you know, it's theoretically, it's a pure art thing. So if you want to talk about something completely unrelated, where there's some sort of actions being taken that block people from, you know, paying their heating bill or whatever, that's a very different thing than whether or not you can take part in this artist's art drop. But in general, I do remember when I was first finding out about NFTs, the idea of these creator royalties was such a big part of it to me, and such a big part of what made it at least partially superior to what has come before. And I have not enjoyed seeing the very financial interested participants of it pushing back against those, in ways like these marketplaces that allow you to go around them, or, you know, the OTC trading that is very prevalent, that allows you to go around them. So I'm think okay with it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm also now, you say the thing about the 98%. I am genuinely now curious. I wonder what that is broken down by, you know, US dollar equivalent rather than just number of trades, because I do think probably it skews very heavily in favor of big trades where people are trying to, and again, understandably, save themselves 20F on a huge sale or whatever. I mean, that makes sense that you would want to do that, but to some extent, I feel like when you're buying these NFTs that have creator royalties that are, you know, chosen and disclosed up top, that's sort of part of the agreement. And I get that the technology allows you to say fuck that agreement or whatever, because, you know, it's not baked into the smart contract necessarily. I just feel like, what, in some sense, what are we doing here if we're doing away with creator royalties?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be just really interesting to see how this continues to evolve and play out over the next 6 to 12 months. As more marketplaces come out, they'll have their own approaches to royalties. More projects will come out that will try and block them or will block them. It's going to be an ongoing, I think, quite lively debate within the community, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be really interesting.
Here's a question. Last time we recorded, we talked about this with Simon. By the way, should we say something about Simon being a great guest, or do you want?
He was amazing.
He was a great guest.
We got to bring him back. We will bring him back.
Can I talk, Roy?
QQL. Let's talk about QQL, guys. Let's talk about QQL.
Had the idea of the minter royalties, was that part of it?
I can't remember.
I think he announced that after that
Might have
recording.
been.
That's certainly worth talking about.
Yeah.
So now I brought it up. You can talk about it.
So they basically, probably within the last week, that Tyler announced that the person who mints the piece of art or creates the piece of art, so not the people who minted
the wallet,
or bought,
if you want to be super
the wallet,
technical and
not
lame,
not
like me.
not the people that purchased or minted the mint pass, which is what happened yesterday. It's the wallet that takes that mint pass and then creates piece of generative art, mints a piece of generative art with it, is entitled to a 2% royalty, creator royalty for life for that specific NFT. And this is something that so many projects have promised and some played with before and not. And everyone always said, well, you can't do that. That's a security. But I think because this time that the creators act, well, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know if this is exactly correct, but I'm imagining
you did go to law school for a
I did go to law school for a while. I was almost a lawyer. Where was I? Because the minter is actively
Brisbane,
involved in Brisbane, yeah. Because the minter is actively involved in the creation process, they're not a passive participant. They are a creator. They co-created the piece effectively. They are they are the artist. Like it's the artist of the generative art is Tyler Hobbs, sort of Dandelion Wist,
have been
and
saying
the person.
for a while. And we talked about this kind of extensively in the last episode, but that ability to sort of self-curate your mint does make you the what's the word I'm looking for here? Collector, buyer, creator, whatever, minter. Also partially the artist of the piece. Also, with respect to the whether or not it's a security thing, there's in theory, I guess, no expectation that Tyler is going to do something in the future that makes this more valuable. It's not, there's not going to be interactions in some sort of game. There's not going to be necessarily like financialized airdrops. It's a piece of art, and you're buying a piece of art from them. And as far as the Howey
you're
test
creating a piece of art with them,
right? As far as the Howey test is concerned, generally that's one of the big things. Is that there's an expectation of profit from the continued labor of other people, which you're not really getting here.
Yep. So the mint pass is
not a lawyer, and I never went to law school.
You are married to one, though.
That's true.
The mint passes are up to 21 ETH. They sort of fairly quickly just started climbing in price, and
I wonder how long that'll go on for.
Yeah,
I assume not much longer, but who really knows?
Yeah, you would think
it's so interesting in the NFT space. When something goes up in price, people are like, okay, I'll buy it, and then it'll go up more and like as long as that continues, it continues. But
hot potato.
Yeah.
I think in the case of this, it is over the long term, it's got an inbuilt mechanism that is likely to make it go up in price just because of the scarcity model of as people create new pieces, there's only going to be a reducing a deflationary number of these mint passes. Have
you seen how many people have started minting yet? I have not looked into that, but I'd be very curious as to what the speed with which people are minting. A lot of us had speculated that people are going to hold them. The majority of people are going to be holding them and just sort of, testing tons of mints constantly before really picking one, or just kind of holding it for an indefinite period of time with the same sort of deflationary blah 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 thoughts of maybe selling it later just for more.
Yeah, I agree that most people are probably going to want to hold on to it. I'm looking at the OpenSea page now.
That's what I was going to do.
And it says there's 998 mint pass items, which might mean that literally only one person has created, but that can't be right because, well, I mean, it can be, but I know that they were incentivizing in some way. They said that there will be a trait, I think, for day zero or people who burned and minted the artwork on day one or day zero.
But also the contest winners alone should have already reduced that number by like 9, I would think.
Do they win their piece or do they just win a mint pass?
Yes,
yeah.
That's confirmed. Yeah. But I guess they could be taking a week or something before they mint those to the wallets, I guess. But I would have assumed that it would have happened immediately.
Yeah, I am.
And so you got 2, though, just on a sort of more personal level, right? You bought 2 passes?
I did. I like totally forgot that the mint was happening that day. And
that's wild.
It is wild. I was in a meeting, like a team meeting.
I must not have talked about it on the last episode. No.
Well, I obviously, yeah. It's the day of. It was just not on my mind. And I was in a team meeting, and one of my coworkers said, "Oh, just like side note, did you see what happened with the Dutch auction?" I was like, "What Dutch auction?" QQL. I was like, "Oh crap, I missed it." And then I was like, this fear. I was like, "Oh, I hope it didn't go for like 5 or 6 ETH, where I would have like been pretty happy to pull the trigger on quite a few." And he said 14. I was like, "All right, I might have bought one at that price."
That number sounds familiar. Is that what that is?
And then I went to secondary, and they were at like 15-ish. And I thought, well, I definitely want at least one. And I bought one, and then they sort of hit that thing happened where more people were buying them. And I was like, well, I got to get one now before it goes up even more.
Get another one.
And so I got another one, and I'm semi-contemplating selling one soon, but it's probably just smart to hold. Are you eyeing one? Are you thinking of making a big move?
Definitely not. I would definitely like to have one. I had a lot of fun exploring the algorithm, and it would be really fun to have a mint pass and be exploring the algorithm in a real way where I'm looking for one mint. That would be very fun to me, but I just can't justify it at that price.
I believe they said that they've implemented some sort of, or they're planning to implement some sort of mechanism where people can sell their like transaction seed, so you can generate like you can spend all day generating outputs and then pick the 10 that look the best or that you think other people might want to mint. And then for people who don't have the time or the desire to sift through and generate outputs and be like, oh, that one looks amazing, I want to own that piece, they can maybe buy the seed off you for $1,000 or something.
I had not heard that. That's interesting. I do also remember hearing that you can't generate the same one because it's the way that the randomization is done and your wallet address being baked into it. You just, no other wallet can ever recreate that same output as you did. Theoretically, I guess your own wallet could trillion years into the future again, but
yeah, they might have some sort of interesting smart contract mechanism where if you're the wallet to generate it hypothetically and you save it on your wallet, then you can partner up with someone who has a mint pass and sort of.
Oh no, I'm not saying that technically there's no way for them to do what you're saying. I'm sure there's a way to transfer it if that's their plan.
Yeah.
Just in that nobody can see your output, like it so much, and then copy it by brute forcing it. Right. So this mechanism makes sense in that way.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
All right. Should we talk about? Well, there's.
No, I actually do want to talk about QQL a little bit more. So you're saying you're thinking about selling one, but you should probably hold them. It sounds like there's no plans for you to be exploring the output space in Mint One. Okay. I was just kind of curious about that.
I have the rest of my life basically, and I'm in no rush. I would love to take the time and explore the algorithm, and also just see what other people are minting. And
it is nice that you can. So much more of the work is being done for you in a sense. So you can kind of see what outputs you like.
Yeah. So, can I move on now, or you want any more QQL?
Yes, you can. I wanted to ask that.
The other big news coming out this week in the art blocks and generative art area is Art Blocks announced that they are ending the delineation of curated series or seasons. His series or seasons?
Series. I've used the word seasons, but it's series.
Yeah.
This was a little bit of a confusing message to people because they thought it meant there's no more art blocks curated after Series 8, which is not what they meant, but they will not have a series designation, which is... It's almost an announcement that means nothing, but it also definitely means something, if you know what I mean. Like,
this coffee is so bad. Oh.
Roy's been complaining. I'm not kidding you, listeners. Roy has been complaining to me about this same cup of coffee for 3 hours now because
I put too much salt in it.
He's a crazy person that puts salt in his coffee.
It makes instant coffee better.
That's his own fuck up. And then he put too much of it in.
But I don't know how I put that much
millions of dollars to just pour it out and make a new cup of coffee.
I'm not going to waste coffee. That's wasteful, Jamie.
What were we talking about? Something other than
the series
designation. So yeah, the way that some people falsely misinterpreted it to mean that there's going to be no more art blocks curated, that obviously would be a enormous announcement. But this one is so nothing in a way while still being something, is sort of the way I took it, because in terms of the supply, right, which is a thing that people talk about, with art blocks, and art blocks curated a lot in the way that it just kind of keeps going up. That sort of fake thing was going to just lock it up at a certain number, which is crazy, and very relevant. But the fact that they're going to keep doing them means that the effect that it's having in terms of there not being any more series is just, it's just like sort of a label on various different ones, which in some sense doesn't mean much. I wonder if it will affect the way they plan to space them out or schedule them, because when you're in the middle of a series, it does feel like you kind of need to go with,
Yeah.
I'm doing something that is not good for the people that are only listening. I'm doing hand motions to designate that they have to kind of keep a schedule. But if you get rid of that, it does seem like if they wanted to, it would allow them more leeway to take more or less time. I assume generally more, between projects.
Yeah. I think so. I read a interview article that Snowfro did, and one of the big reasons he explained for doing it is that they would love to release curated collections that might have only 50 editions, for instance. And due to the way that the market has approached collecting a full curated set, and this bottleneck that has existed for elevated deconstruction, of which there's only 200 of them, the floor price is 50 ETH. If they released a collection that was 100, it would just sort of automatically and instantly, artificially make that extraordinarily valuable, and sort of almost be very inconvenient for collectors who have been diligently putting together a full set, and now all of a sudden you're going, well, if you want to keep your full set, you're going to have to pay whatever the people who mint these say that you're going to pay, and
or join in the gas war trying to mint one yourself, I guess.
Right. So by capping it at 8 seasons, it sort of maintains that collectability. If people want to say, I have a full curated set of the Genesis set, or like the
right.
early eras, and then that is maintained, and it'll be interesting to see how much people care about having like a full curated set. So if someone does in the future release something at 50 or 10 or 125,
how many more numbers do you want to say? or
20 is there going to be just that same artificial crazy spike in price? And I think
now you say artificial, but there's nothing necessarily artificial.
Not artificial.
Right? Supply and demand.
It is supply and demand. I think by artificial, I mean the price
it's not about the artistic value
correct.
necessarily.
Correct.
It's just because an economic supply demand.
Right.
Where really it's the supply sort of.
Yeah.
More so than the demand.
I would say 95% of the time I hear people talk about elevated deconstruction, it is through the frame of this. You need one to get a full set. Very rarely are people talking
unique project otherwise, really, because the mints are all quite similar to it, and there's not grail pieces really that people talk about or anything.
Yeah,
like that. It's not really iconic for any reason other than the supply.
So yeah, season or series 8 of Art Blocks will be the final one, which is wrapping up end of
I thought they said they were going to make maybe series 8 a little bit longer, though.
Maybe
now I think they said they were going to extend it a little bit, so it's not actually going to end when you thought it was.
Yeah,
I can't be sure if I'm making that up.
I don't know either, but it had I think a small pump or impact on floor price. It seemed like a bunch of people saw the announcement and then came in and bought a bunch of just random curated pieces, potentially misconstruing it as saying, "Oh, this is the end of curated."
Yeah, they did. They made a clarifying announcement later. Yeah, that may be true. I've been on NFT-Fi, as I often am, a bit lately, and it does seem like the floors have been coming up a decent amount, sort of across the board on Art Blocks Curated.
Yeah.
It feels like maybe it had started a little bit before this announcement, but nothing huge, but it almost seems as though as ETH declines in US dollar terms,
Yeah.
the art blocks curated has actually been kind of staying sort of flat in USD
Mhm.
terms by going up a little bit in ETH prices.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the next curated drop? Have you looked at it much at all?
I looked at it, but not much. It's called
Same.
Fontana.
Mm-hmm. Fontana is
and
Latin for fountain.
there's going to be 500 of them.
Are
I
you
did
sure
look
about
at
that,
some
or
of
is
the
that
test-
just the
Oh, yeah,
amount that
that-
they've got at the testing site?
That could just be the testing site. You're right. That is a sort of common number for them these days. They look somewhat good to me. Nothing super interesting or uninteresting to me. But I only looked at them very, very briefly, so I can't really speak with any authority on them.
Yeah, I haven't looked
The artist
in
name
depth
didn't ring a
either.
bell, so I'm not sure if they had. Sorry to step over you. If an FX hash project or something, which is sort of a common thing that we see these days.
Harvey Rayner is the artist's name. I was going to say we talk a lot about how whenever a new curated comes out, it sort of kind of blows our mind how it looks unlike anything else that we've seen in the curated collection. This one, to me, it has some similarities to Entre Tiempos. I don't know if you're seeing that.
Yeah, there's a lot of circular motif to it, which Entre Tiempos has a lot of. I would say it's still pretty darn different from it, but there is a bit of a circle-based thing going on there that's vaguely similar to it.
Circle-based and like various layers of opaqueness between layers.
Yeah,
which
I think opacity might be the word you're looking
opacity
for, but that's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm looking forward to digging into it a little bit more and exploring the algorithm. I'm a little more excited by this than the previous one, probably last two drops. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked
personally.
about the last one last episode, and you definitely seemed like you were the least interested in it of the three of us. One thing that you and I have talked about before, and that I still don't know if it's true or how much, is that, you know, oftentimes we'll look at a upcoming project, not be that excited about it, and then it comes out and we somehow get more into it. And one thing that you had speculated, I think this was back when we talked about scribbled boundaries, which that's how long ago it was. But I think you were saying that possibly the artist is still tweaking after we get these sample outputs. So the final algorithm that outputs the ones that we see later and are more impressed by might actually not even be the same as the one that's giving these test outputs. Somehow neither of us, I think, still knows whether or not that's true.
Yeah.
I guess it probably must be true, because they've talked about little things where like it's delayed because they have to do some sort of tweak. So the ability for them to change the contract is definitely there up until the last minute. I just don't know how much that thing that we're talking about can be attributed to that, or in general, how much artists, I'm still scrolling through the outputs, by the way, how much the artists are tweaking even past the point of getting accepted for curation and having sort of the testments out there in the public.
Yeah, we should find out. It seems like something we should know. I knew the artist name looked familiar. Harvey Rayner released the Photon's Dream project earlier this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
That name definitely rings a bell. Let me pull it up so I can remember what it looks like.
I like that project quite a lot. It is Photon's Dream. Yeah.
That's not on Art Blocks because it's not.
It is on Art Blocks. PHOTON_S.
Yeah,
Dream.
So no results. Oh, you know what? Because I'm on the artist staging, I'm not on real Art Blocks. That makes sense.
There you go.
I was a little insulted that you told me how to spell photon, because I do know how to spell that, but I guess it's an understandable thing for you to do, right? Can you find it?
No, I thought you didn't put the apostrophe in, and that might be
I tried it both ways
search.
even before you said.
Well,
yeah, okay, I remember.
Never know with you. Yeah.
You never know. What else do we have to talk about? Nothing else for generative art, I think. Those are the three things. We could probably...
I got some exciting news this week.
Okay, go ahead.
Zancan DM'd me on Twitter and said that he was looking back through an old collection that he basically released a collection which was a randomized number of... It was an edition of 10, and through that, he basically used this collection to randomly pick 10 people that minted kindergarten monuments. A collection he did in collaboration with Yazid, and he did it because when they were minting that, he said, "I'm going to randomly pick 10 people and give them." Send them physical prints of their edition, and there's a whole interesting story and mechanic behind why he did it on FX Hash with numbers and drawing, and the people that minted or bought the random things also got some cool benefits. I can't remember exactly what. Like there's some embedding of his work in there. But anyway, he was like, "Hey, I was looking back over it, and they haven't all been claimed, and I saw that one of them is yours, and you can go claim it." Why are you laughing?
Because you're telling the story that's, I'm not here to judge whether or not it's interesting, but then you go tell us that there is this interesting side story of how something happened. I'm not going to tell you the interesting thing, but I'm going to continue with this, which is may or may not be interesting, but I promise you adjacent
okay,
to
Jamie.
something very, very interesting.
It's interesting to me. I get a physical Zancan. I'm very excited by it.
No, it is exciting and interesting and noteworthy in the generative art section. I just thought it was funny that you're telling this story and you're telling us as an interesting way. Yeah, I've already said it.
Let's talk about QQL.
Okay, I genuinely could keep talking about it.
Okay. What would you like to talk about?
I would like to talk about why you haven't explored the algorithm almost at all. I am curious about that. I get that if you are saying, okay, I have one and I'm going to mint it and I have my whole life, I don't have to explore it. But as just from a base level, as a genuine appreciator of generative art, it's weird not to have spent more time, I feel, exploring Tyler Hobbs' fucking new algorithm. In such a cool, like, the way that we're able to tweak the parameters is really not something that people have been able to do without being at least, sophisticated enough to go through the code and do it that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really want to, and I've done sort of like random creation. I'll just go through and click random and then generate 400 and then scroll through.
Right.
But I basically just haven't had enough time to sit down and be like, I'm going to dedicate an hour or 90 minutes. I have
if you really
crazy
want to see
schedule.
what the different parameters actually affect and then more complicated how those interact with each other, it is a big time commitment. So you can kind of just do the spraying thing like you're talking about, where you just do some randomization. And look, one thing that sort of helped me, that's a weird thing to say, but helped me sort of narrow down that what is it when something's not scary but intimidating? The intimidatingness of how tough it is.
If it's not scary, it's intimidating. Those are your two options.
I got to the word that I was looking for. It's sort of intimidating to try and look through and discern what the algorithm can do or whatever, like we're saying, but it's not scary, but it's intimidating.
Well, something can be scary and intimidating,
right? But in this case, the word I was looking for was intimidating. Anyway, see, now you're sidetracking me. I found a palette that was sort of my favorite, and I locked onto that pretty quickly, and there was like a couple of other things that I pretty quickly determined. In general, I like having these settings, and then so I basically got to eliminate half of the things, and then I could just kind of tweak the other stuff. Made it a lot more manageable to just start. Although, obviously I haven't done it too extensively. Now it almost looks like you're smirking like you got something funny.
I was not smirking. I have, the more that I see awesome outputs, I'm just constantly blown away by the diversity of the algorithm.
It is amazing.
And it can just almost seems like it can create anything. And so I've seen things that look like a beach. I've seen things that look like I was going to say a penis.
I love that you stopped at one. A beach. One. Can't think of any other.
No, I've seen like a starry night at sky, starry sky at night. I've seen like a building. I've seen some amazing like waves. We've all seen a bunch of waves. Really cool spiral things.
to you see penises everywhere.
I did. No, I saw someone create that. And
Everywhere
then, like,
you look, that's all you see. That's interesting.
someone was memeing, calling it like Vitalik, and yeah.
Yeah, no, the algorithm is crazily diverse, and it's also fun to sort of see the very like this is by the
I don't know why Jamie's laughing now. Use your words, Jamie.
I wasn't even going to say something that was funny, but once I started doing hand gestures right after, anyway, I'm sorry. The ones that are
Jamie's coffee has mushrooms in it.
not those kind, unfortunately. I think it's cordyceps and chagas or something. That's anyway. The outputs that have no curvature to them whatsoever, just the very why can I not use now? I'm
square, rectangular, straight.
Grids. I think grid is the word I'm looking for. You know, where it's just very rectangular, and because ultimately the algorithm is putting out a bunch of little circles, but then and most of the outputs that people are sharing are these ones that are flowy and all of this sort of stuff. But I am partially drawn to, and also because they're so different from most of the outputs we're seeing, these ones where you just have very clean columns and varying, whatevers. I just found some of those to be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you were saying, it is amazing that with the help of all these co-curators, we're getting to see things that don't at all look like they're coming from the same algorithm. Other than that, if you zoom in, everything is coming from circles rather than other shapes.
Yeah, it makes me so excited to see what we see in the future. Like, is someone gonna just generate something that's like, oh, that's a rainforest, and that's that's a human face, and then
yes, I am assuming that as we just have theoretically an exponentially large number of outputs tested, we're going to see, and that's another thing, is that people are really searching for things that look like other things a lot. Not purely, but there's a lot of look for things that are representative of something that we actually see in real life. I think we're going to see some pretty amazing outputs that are just shockingly rare. But because again, we have so many people churning out hundreds and hundreds of outputs all the time, and I assume somebody is going to probably have like a mechanized way of doing this on Amazon Web Services or something like that, where they're really doing it at a sort of an industrial scale, looking for these grails or whatever.
I have a question. Do you think the floor price of QQL will ever get higher than Fidenza?
You mean QQL, the art collection, or the mint passes? Because
either.
It's two. I could see the mint passes definitely in the future going for more. I don't foresee the project itself going for more. This kind of hints back to something we were saying with Simon. Also, I'm getting sidetracked, but the way that sort of everybody is searching for grails largely makes them not that, right? So the floor piece basically in the QQL collection, even though at the time it was minted, it sort of felt grailish because it was unique and all that. The floor is still going to be the floor, and it'll be hard to discern maybe, aside from maybe something like Alpine Valley that the community was able to latch onto early as something that they all decide to agree is grailish or whatever. I feel like you're not going to necessarily be able to see that many at the higher end differentiating just because of the way every piece is higher end. And I think Fidenza in general was sort of a more amazing algorithm. It's very different because of the way that, again, we talked about this last episode, but Fidenza, he had to worry about the least attractive pieces in the collection a lot, because every mint was a mint, right? Whereas this, you don't have to do that. You're getting to explore this other thing. And I think what sort of has allowed Fidenza to be so valuable, part of it, I mean, there's obviously a ton of factors, is the way he was so successful at doing that. And that shows tremendous artistry, and has sort of been rewarded with a high price because of that. And the way that you're sort of able to eliminate that hurdle that you have to get over in generative art by doing it this way means that there's something less impressive in a way to the project that makes me think that we're not ever going to be able to see a floor that eclipses Fidenza. But I definitely could see, if enough people mint them, which I'm afraid that people won't. I think maybe the passes will be really hoarded and not used to an amount that's actually disappointing. But if they do use them at a pretty steady clip, and we really do get to see the supply go down, I could definitely see that having a higher floor than Fidenza someday.
That would be exciting. Fidenza floor had a bit of a nice run over the last week as well. I think someone's swept like 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah,
I think that might have happened before we chatted. Yeah. Anything else in the generative art sphere?
Not that I have to talk about. There's other stuff happening. Well, Peter Plasma, is that his last name? Plasma.
I think it's Pasma. Peter Pasma.
Peter Pasma has a project coming out. He's been tweeting out samples of it for quite a while now. He's been working on it. I think it's like a Bright Moments FX Hash collaboration or something to that effect. That was just something I saw recently, and I have been seeing test outputs for a while now.
I haven't seen that one. He's the person behind the sculptors collection, sculptures, which I think it's one of the most impressive art blocks curated collections there is.
It is crazy. Especially again, given how. I say again, as if we talked about this recently. 38 episodes ago, we talked about how small the code is for that project, and that in conjunction with the outputs it will never not be amazing to me. He also has a quite popular FX Hash project called Hyper Giraffe, I think, something Giraffe.
I like that one.
Nice.
I think it is Hyper Giraffe. FX Hash is great.
It is.
Like, I don't spend enough time on there.
Collect there soon. But yeah, that is it for our generative art section, right? That covers it.
Yeah, that was pretty comprehensive.
Art blocks and
generative art in general. Jamie, what's going on with your generative art creation journey, your coding journey?
So we just talked about this for a second off air, but I spend a lot more time looking at generative art than I do making it. And as it's something that I took up making it, that is, relatively recently, like for instance, I was talking about MP Kaz a lot lately and looking at his art, and I was sort of reading his sort of backstory about it. And he was talking about how he was, in college years ago, and sort of starting his journey by doing, creative coding back then. So, sometimes it feels like intimidating to try and put yourself in the same sort of position as these other people who have a lot more experience and theoretically talent than I do. And certainly a lot more, one thing that's nice about this NFT generative art boom is that there's been so many of these generative artists who have been working on this stuff for a long time without really any way to realistically have much financial rewards from it. And now there is this great way for them to do it. And, it's been super successful for some and medium for others, whatever. But either way, it's nice to actually have a way for them to get compensated for it that there never really was before. And so it feels almost like if I'm going to now try and jump into this space and also be selling them rather than giving them away, that I'm either I'm in a sense taking some money or attention away from these people that are in a lot of ways more deserving than it. And so it feels like for me to justify that, I feel like I have to hit a really high hurdle for how awesome I think that the outputs are to the algorithm, which is sort of intimidating, not scary, intimidating.
Because those are the only two options.
That was while we were recording. So that's just sort of something I've been thinking about lately. You know, while we've talked about it before, there was sort of talk about how quickly I could get something to FX hash. And I was saying I generally didn't want to do that because of, and I guess I didn't quite articulate it like I am now, but because of a little bit of this pressure of how good some of this other stuff out there I'm seeing is. But in some way, realistically, if I'm going to do it, it might just be easier to really accept that and just be okay with having, for instance, my first generative art project be something that I'm okay pricing a lot lower, possibly having a much smaller supply, although I have not really thought much about what kind of supply I would want out of my first project. It is interesting, though. Another thing I've been thinking is that the project that I had been doing, that I was working sort of towards as being my first project, was similar to QQL in the sense that I was taking a simple shape. In my case, it was squares, and just having a variety of sizes of them and sort of filling the canvas to varying degrees with it. But the way that Tyler, who is obviously much more accomplished than me, is able to fill the canvas in ways that are not just, you know, totally randomized X component coordinate, totally randomized Y coordinate, and then kind of varying the density of the piece that you're covering with it, it is really impressive. And I feel like something that I need to learn how to do better in order to make the project more sort of complete and interesting. I think I've mentioned this before, but the artist who did screens, Thomas Lynn Peterson, I believe is his name, in Block Talk a while ago was sort of talking about how with generative art, it's relatively easy to make something quite attractive by essentially simply filling up the canvas, which is largely what I feel like I've been doing. And he said, you know, again, although that is attractive, he doesn't find it particularly interesting anymore. And I don't fully agree with that, but when I'm sort of crossing that threshold between just coding on my own and generating outputs versus now actually charging for those and having those outputs be minted NFTs, you are sort of crossing a threshold where I would want to be holding myself to a higher standard.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
I was just going to say, you were dabbling for a second. That was something that was a one-day thing, basically. It was
basically
like when you go to college. Okay.
No, I got.
Have we told about how you went to school for literally one class before? I'm sure we have, but
we probably have.
Probably haven't heard that. But yeah, Roy has gone to and dropped out of uni, as he calls it, college, as we would call it in America, many times. But my
3
favorite,
times.
The second time, I believe,
Yep.
you went, enrolled, went to class, and in the middle of the first class of the first class, like class
about
number
40
1
minutes
of the
in.
first class you had, you just gave up, which is just stunning to me. And it will never not be funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the generative art, you're a very busy person, and it sounded interesting at the time, and then
yeah,
it was not something you could continue at that time to put time into.
I don't even feel like I have the time to play with this generative art QQL thing that is just like literally dialing things
set up for you in the easiest way.
It's handed to me in a silver platter, let alone
you have multiple mint passes for the project.
Yeah, it's wild. Speaking of generative art, we sort of missed something huge that I've almost missed in the news section. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a tribute to Herbert Frank. Herbert Frank is considered the dinosaur of computer art, and he sort of was talking about.
Did you mean to say dinosaur?
Yeah, like that's literally. If you go to the website, tribute
that's just his nickname.
It's his nickname in honor of the dinosaur of computer art. He was writing about computer art, digital art in 1957, and it was just like one of the pioneers, maybe the first pioneer to really push for. Anyway, he sadly passed away a few months ago, and about 80 of the most renowned generative artists, photographers, poets, and virtual world builders working today were invited by Art Meets Science, a foundation by Herbert W. Frank, to honor his life and work. The tribute to Herbert W. Frank will launch on 30th September, 6 p.m. CET, so that was several hours ago. But the way it's working is that these 80 artists are releasing in batches, so some today, some 7th of October, some 14th of October, some 21st of October, and a combination of one-of-ones, auctions, generative art projects across Art Blocks and FX Hash and Foundation, other platforms. And the list of artists is just jaw-dropping. You have Rafik Anadol, Justin Avesano, Ryan Bell, Def Beef, Snowfro, Casey Rias, Zancan, Emily Shee. It goes on, and it's just something very much worth keeping an eye on. I think a large percentage of the proceeds go to support his foundation and other charities.
Is there a go-to single link that I should type in right now?
Yes, it's tribute-hwf.com, and we'll definitely post that below. And yeah, it's worth keeping an eye on if you're interested in generative art. And
this list of artists is quite long.
Yeah, 80, and it's, there's a lot that I don't recognize because they're probably photographers and poets I'm far less familiar with than current day generative artists, and I'm sure some of these are people that were more prolific, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah,
and less.
Falter, I'm looking at right here, is local to me. She, I believe, works at RISD, which is the Rhode Island School of Design, so it's very close to me.
Her and her
husband are very big in sort of computer art, digital art, all that stuff, and have been for a long time. And it was kind of cool to me when I found that out. I was like, oh, that's like, I know RISD. I've been there.
Yeah.
I had friends in high school that wanted to go there and all that. Anyway, that's cool. I heard about Herbert passing, but I don't remember hearing about this whole big project.
I only heard about it for the first time like a week ago or something, and
their marketing team is not doing a good enough job with us.
Yeah. So I was in a Twitter space just before we started recording this, and someone came up and asked if anyone like in the space or in the community, ZenAcademy and around was going to be at NFT London and any satellite events, and one of the people on stage, Daniel, was like, they have done a terrible job marketing because I live in London. I'm in NFTs 24/7 and I've never heard about this. So maybe it's
yeah. I mean, I would think that person is right by saying that, but sometimes I also wonder how much this sort of thing is they're trying to market to not the people that are already interested in it.
Absolutely.
But also it feels like if you're doing that, there's sort of a subtext that of course the people that are local and into it will hear of it anyway, and if their calculation of that is wrong, then maybe the other part of the marketing strategy is not necessarily right, because it was built on this fake premise.
This segues nicely into something else I wanted to mention, which is coming up in about 10 days, October 10th to 14th, there's a conference in Las Vegas, WebX Las Vegas. I will be there. I'll be speaking. I'll be on stage like 11 times, which is kind of wild.
In how many days?
4 days.
That is
4
a lot.
days. Yeah.
Say the dates again.
October 10th through to 14th. 10th, 11th to 13th. So it's 10th is the first day, 11th, 12th, 13th. That's 4 days. That's math. 10th through the 13th. If anyone is interested in coming, you can use the code ZEN33 for a 33% discount. We will be hosting a bunch of ZenAcademy events, so just keep an eye out. I posted an announcement in the Discord for like the schedule and the stuff that we have going on and the times that we'll be on stage. One of the things we're doing is a 4-day workshop on how to build an NFT business, an NFT company, and it's going to be me and 3 of my team members up on stage. It's like it's going to be fun, and the whole conference sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, Vegas is a blast. So yeah, if you're in town, come on by. You're not going to be coming, right?
No.
Yeah. How's your survivor pool thing going?
Week 1, as we know, was terrible, but it's going good now. Last week, I picked a shitty team and got through, so that was great. And I have what appears to be a nice sort of plan for the rest of the season. Of course, mathematically, it most likely won't work at some point. Eventually, a team will lose. The team that I'm picking this week, or look like I'm picking, because we don't have to lock our picks in for another 2 days, is like 65% to win. So, there's a 35% chance it'll just be
You're
over
just out
this week. But I feel it feels like the field is catching up to how. This is a bad sentence. Let me start over. The amount of my entries that I lost on week 1, the field overall is getting close to having lost that many entries, because it's continued to be a lot of eliminations in weeks 2 and 3. And luckily I was able to not be eliminated at all during those weeks.
What's the prize pool for this one that you're in?
It's a little over $6 million. It's
wow.
So it's a $6 million guarantee. Excuse me, with $1,000 buy-in, and I think they got 6,133 entries.
Very
and what's
exciting.
fun about this, and my father-in-law delights in this every single week. 10, 20, 15, whatever people every single week just don't even submit a pick and just get eliminated. And he finds that. I also think it's pretty crazy and funny, but it really pleases him.
It's kind of like the survivor pool equivalent of someone with an NFT just not claiming a free airdrop or something worth a bunch of money. But
that is a lot more understandable. In many cases, because you could just not know about it. Whereas
this one they actively signed up.
Pool, and it's also like, to some extent, the ones who did it week 1, it's like, oh, maybe you forgot about it, but you made a pick week 1, and now week 2, it's like, forget it.
Yeah, I mean, the more bit like the pessimistic view is like, well, maybe they got hit by a car, maybe they're in hospital, maybe they're.
I think more likely it's just they're so rich.
They got busy.
They were gambling then, but then it's like they're too busy partying or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's things where you don't actually have to feel bad for them. You can almost feel in awe of how hedonistic or successful their life is, that they don't even have to bother. That's at least the way I've been mostly assuming that it is.
I think you're probably right. Yeah. All right. I'll let me talk briefly about ZenAcademy in this section. It's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes still, but I think November is going to be a very exciting month. So I've been saying a lot without saying a lot for a long time, but now I think in the next few weeks, this is like an announcement of an announcement, but we'll be able to announce the next 3 phases.
In the future,
I'm still going to say not much,
now
but it's very exciting. We're working on a lot and moving in a bunch of exciting directions. Yeah.
Rather than you just throwing out a bunch of vagaries,
saying nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. What are sort of the main reasons that you feel like you don't want to say this stuff? Is it because you don't want to, sort of set expectations, or it's still so much that you're like toying with 3 ideas, but you're only going to follow through with 1? Like, what is the reason that you feel like you have to hold so much back? Or I guess, sorry, now I'm just throwing out possibilities for why, but like, another thing is just you don't want other projects maybe to copy ideas. Could be a thing if it's something sort of novel, at least.
Yeah, that's part of it. Part of it is also the flexibility, because we haven't locked everything in yet, and I don't want to. I don't want to say something and then us not do it and be like, we don't want to do that. And the other thing is managing expectations, and I think that's something that I'm very cognizant about. And I don't want to say, oh, we have an epic PFP project coming out in 2 months, and then people are just going to build up anticipation and hype. And yeah, I mean, I've not been shy about saying we are working on a PFP project, but it is still likely several months away. However, there's a few other concepts and things that are going to be happening on a much sooner time frame. And I'll be. And the other thing is, I want to sort of announce and share things in a more specific and organized way. Like I'd want to hold whether it's a a Twitter space or a Discord call, like a town hall with the community, give people warning. So, if I'm going to announce some like big things that are coming, I don't necessarily want to just do it in a podcast that a few thousand people listen to, and then the community, like people be like, why didn't I hear about this? I would have loved to have known. And the floor price gets swept up, and people get.
Right.
I'd like
it's
to.
Not super targeted communication right now.
Yeah.
This is
a
podcast for Two Bored Apes fans, not necessarily ZenAcademy members.
Correct. However, if you're listening to this, you should come check out ZenAcademy. What you should do is subscribe to us on YouTube and leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast app, because we are trying to grow the podcast, and that really helps.
Yes. And we've been told by Beatrice, who's actually off screen over here with a gun pointed at me, saying, "Don't talk about food immediately. Ask people to subscribe and leave good reviews."
Yeah.
All right, we're doing it.
Should we do what am I thinking?
There's just a wall. I
got a wall right here.
2 feet between me and the wall there.
Yeah. Should we give something away?
Do those things.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Now I want to get sidetracked now. Why are you not watching House of the Dragons, right? Were you one of these people that was so hated the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones that you just can't do it? That's how everybody felt. But
it's part that. It's part not... I don't know where to go to watch it. Like, is it on Netflix? Is it on HBO? Is it on...
Yeah, it's HBO.
Okay, I don't know how to get HBO here in Germany. I'd have to
But you are so smart enough to figure that out.
I could figure it out, probably. I'm sure I could. But the other thing is, again, time. It's like I don't currently feel like...
Isn't one of your big things with time is that, like, you're tweeting about how busy you are, but you're also then bragging, like, but I also played so much Dota and watched 32
like playing
episodes
Dota.
of the... Yeah, but I think you would like this show.
Yeah.
Listeners, please tweet at Roy and tell him how good the show is.
I've heard it's great, and I'm going to watch it one day. It might be nicer to watch without having to every week.
Craig, more my friend, but you know him anyway.
Yeah,
he
I like
was a
Craig.
Huge Game of Thrones fan, and then, like so many people, was super disappointed in it. And then, so he's talking about how, like, he's watching this show with his mind, but not with his heart, because he won't let himself. And I kind of check in with him after, and he's like, I really like it, but, like, I'm not going to let myself get hurt again.
Yeah, I feel similarly. It was seasons 1 through 5 of Game of Thrones, roughly, were just the best TV I've ever watched.
It was fantastic and definitely had a downward slope to it. But I kind of don't care because, that stuff at the beginning was, we're getting so off topic. But I do... Okay,
we were so close to wrapping up.
Go off the rails and then start talking about Star Wars and the way that people loved those initial ones, and then hated the prequels. How much does that really detract from the joy that you had earlier? Who knows? But let's get to business and play that game. What am I thinking? Which is also not at all related to NFTs and DeFi and all that stuff.
Random stuff, though. We say random stuff. Random. This is the random stuff.
Right. Well, if you want to keep talking about the random stuff, then. All right, let's do it. You loved seasons 1 through 5 so much of Game of Thrones.
I'm gonna watch House of the. I'm gonna watch it.
That's fine. But how much does that enjoyment get taken away by the later seasons? Because you can't take away the enjoyment that you had, but you can, I suppose, take away the backwards looking reflections of how great it was in some way. But it's a more joyful life to not allow the negative stuff at the end to so much take away from what you had at the beginning, right?
Correct. I mean,
philosophically,
I have a very joyful life.
Okay, but wouldn't it be more joyful if you were more plugged into how great the first 5 seasons were, as opposed to how much you were disappointed by the end? What? Do you want to get specific about what you didn't love about the end there? Because there's a lot of different complaints.
I do not. I think
you don't want to talk about that.
It's just all bad.
Okay, let's.
Well, hang on. Let's. I'm going to bring it back to NFTs though.
Okay.
The way that they ended, it's similar to how NFT projects build up so much hype, so much anticipation. People it's potentially impossible. Like it might have been impossible for them to match, like to end it so perfectly. But instead of doing like an okay ending and one that people were like, all right, that was good. It didn't meet our expectations because nothing could. But they just did such a bad job. It was like, it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is funny that we're just getting so sidetracked on this, but they didn't have the guy who created the fucking story. They got past how far he's gotten in the story, so they had to just make it up.
Oh yeah,
Whereas
there's
they
plenty
had
of
the blueprint. It's like
logical
that's
reasons for them
yeah,
falling off a cliff. Yeah.
It's. I wonder though. I keep finding it funny how sidetracked we're getting, but I wonder how hard it'll be for him to tie it up in a way that's satisfying, because part of it obviously is that they didn't have his blueprint to go on anymore. But when you have that many irons in the fire or balls in the air that you're juggling, like it's going to be hard to satisfactorily wrap all of that up. The other thing too, sadly, is that he's quite old and has slowed down a lot, so it doesn't even necessarily seem like he'll be able to finish the story. Which is a whole other thing. If you talk to actual readers of the books, they're so upset with the pace at which he's writing the new book and how much other stuff he's doing, which it feels like, as a person that has no vested interest in it, really, he's totally entitled to do whatever the fuck he wants with his time.
Yeah.
But the people are so mad whenever he like says, "Oh, I like this new movie." They're like, "Why aren't you writing The Winds of Winter, you fucker?"
Yeah.
Okay, let's end this episode soon by doing the game that we do at the end.
We'll do What Am I Thinking, and let's do a giveaway as well. I think we
had a funny jokester on Twitter acting like we gave away QQLs the other day. That was kind of funny.
Oh yeah, that was funny. I briefly saw that, and yeah, that would be something. Tyler and Dandelion, if you're listening,
you would like to?
No, Tyler and Dandelion, if you're listening and you'd like to give away one of the 99 passes you kept back, maybe 90 you have left, we are very open to giving one away to our audience. Yeah, put that out there, put it out in the world.
That's a ridiculous but hopeful request.
Maybe if we did this a few weeks ago and as part of their marketing blitz, then we had
was it
a 1% chance.
I thought it was a much smaller number than that.
For what?
That they're holding back and allowing them to use for marketing or whatever purpose.
99. So 900
that's minted. Actually not quite as ridiculous of a request then from you.
Yeah.
It's still not going to happen, I'm sure, but less ridiculous than I thought it was. If they have 99, I mean, why not give one to one of our listeners, right?
We're going to do a giveaway. I think this time we're going to try use pre-mint for it. So we'll just drop a pre-mint link with instructions in there. That makes it a lot easier rather than Google Forms and people having to comment with all, And I'm doing the thing again where I'm saying stuff and hoping that Vitor with his gun, it's pointed at you, it's not pointed at me, so you can't kill me for saying this. is gonna be able to figure out this giveaway system. We'll play What Am I Thinking? I'm not sure if we need a word, but for the giveaway, if the giveaway has a password, I think you can have passwords for it. The password is going to be, I think, is the word that we arrived at. So
okay.
Oh, what are we giving away? A ZenAcademy Genesis token. Let's do that. Nice and easy. Okay.
That is nice and easy.
I got a word.
I have a word as well. 3, 2, 1.
Dragon.
Caramel.
I was kind of hoping that was the one time that we
caramel and dragon.
Okay.
I have a word.
So do I.
3, 2, 1.
Fire.
Nice.
We are good.
I got a salted caramel old fashioned candle here, which is where I got that word. It smells very good.
How tempted are you to eat the candle?
Not at all. But I want to talk about candles for a little bit right now. My wife does not like sweet smelling candles, and I love them. Like ones that smell like cookies and stuff. How do you feel about this?
I don't like candles that smell like sickly sweet, which I imagine like salted caramel or a cookie scented candle, or even a vanilla candle is a bit much for me.
Okay, so yeah, it seems like a lot of people agree with her, but it smells delicious to me. I don't know what the issue is. I also like the ones that she likes, the balsam fir, or pumpkin-y, apple-y type stuff. Those smell good too.
We got a tobacco scented one that I absolutely love. I'm a huge fan of the tobacco scent, despite not at all being a smoker or or liking cigarettes or tobacco.
I enjoy the scent of like pipe tobacco. Cigarettes, not so much. Maybe a good cigar. This is the end of the episode.
This is
right?
the end. Yeah, there's a giveaway for a
though, right?
ZenAcademy Genesis token.
Should we do it one more time?
Mm-hmm.
Like the podcast.
Like the podcast. Subscribe
Rate
to the YouTube channel. Rate
subscribe to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I also have done? I'll get a friend or relative's phone. Have them subscribe too, right?
Yeah.
Don't just do it for yourself. Get other people's devices and do it on
yeah.
theirs.
Do it without them even knowing.
Of course. No, with their consent, of course.
Yeah, unless it's your significant other, then you can sort of get away with stuff like that. And
I would almost argue even less so. You should do it with them, but you know, everybody's allowed to have their relationship be the way they want to. And if that's how you want to
follow us. Follow us on Twitter. We have a two.
Didn't you lock Rachel out of the apartment for 5 hours?
I did not. She locked herself out of the apartment. She left without keys, and I was asleep for several hours still, so she just couldn't get in. I wasn't waking up to the doorbell. So,
thank you for listening.
Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel.
Well, you're really pushing the YouTube, huh? You like YouTube?
I'm trying to push the YouTube.
The top creators make a ludicrous amount of money on there.
They really do. So I heard an
ridiculous.
interesting thing the other day. Mr. Beast, who has slightly fewer followers than PewDiePie, makes like 10 or 14 times as much as PewDiePie. And it's just because he has just got that brilliant business mind and is just really capitalizing
he knows
on
that
his
YouTube algorithm.
He really
real well.
He's
and
pretty.
Apparently,
pretty
he's
brilliant.
also like an awesome person who doesn't really do much for himself with the money. And
he's just always giving it away.
Stuff. We've tried to end this episode a few more times.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say one other thing.
Talk
Well,
about QQL a little bit as well.
We can do that. As of this week, so I believe we are ZenAcademy releasing TikTok videos now as well, and which is they're just like YouTube shorts that we're putting on TikTok as well.
An application.
TikTok is an app. It is. Yep. It's like Vine, but longer.
No,
that's for the older people.
Everybody knows what TikTok is.
Not everybody knows what TikTok is.
The link will be in the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the show
Subscribe
notes.
to that too. It's not as important as subscribing to the Two Bored Apes
Correct.
stuff, I would say.
Yeah,
but,
I agree.
Secondary is Roy's specific stuff. Okay, this is the end of the episode.
This is the end.
Bye.